Christopher Nolan doesn't chase trends or fill his sets with whatever celebrity happens to be famous that month. Yet somehow, the biggest actors in Hollywood still wait for his call. And after Oppenheimer made nearly $1 billion, Nolan used that power to attempt something completely insane, taking a 3,000-year-old poem, shooting more than 2 million feet of IMAX film, and turning it into one of the biggest theatrical events of his career.
Welcome to the show. Congratulations on the Odyssey. It's the biggest movie in the world. Congratulations.
But to understand why the Odyssey could only have been made by Christopher Nolan, you have to understand how a quiet kid with a Super 8 camera slowly made Hollywood surrender to him.
My first memories of the Odyssey, like a lot of people, are very vague bits and pieces received from a lot of different places, a lot of different adaptations. And for me, I think when I was about 5 years old at primary school, the older kids were doing a version of Ulysses, you know, and I remember the sirens, you know, him being strapped to the mast, and I remember that they did a version of the Trojan horse or something, you know, just as kids.
Christopher Nolan made his first movies using toys back in his beginnings. Today, studios develop brand new cameras specifically for him.
For me, it's been my long-held dream. I mean, really, since I was about 16 years old, to do an entire film on IMAX. The thing that was stopping us was always the sound.
Hello, I'm Christopher Nolan. That's conventional 35mm. We shoot on 70mm. The other format we use is 70mm IMAX. It's the highest quality imaging format ever devised. It gives you an incredible sense of immersion in the image.
Oscar-winning actors rearrange their lives when he calls. The biggest names in Hollywood will follow him up a mountain carrying swords because he promised them it would look better on IMAX.
The Odyssey is definitely the biggest movie that I've ever done in my career. It was like making a movie the way we would have made it 100 years ago, except for the fact that it's on IMAX.
After Oppenheimer made nearly $1 billion and finally gave Nolan his directing Oscar, Hollywood would have allowed him to make almost anything, a movie where everyone speaks loudly enough to be understood. So Nolan chose The Odyssey, a nearly 3,000-year-old story filled with gods, monsters, shipwrecks, and one extremely exhausted man just trying to get home.
No one could stand between me and home, not even the gods.
This is the first time I've worked with Chris, but I really do feel like this particular picture is an accumulation of all of his skills and all of his experiences and him at his best going for it. You know, pedal to the metal, like we are going to make the biggest and most impressive movie that's ever been made.
He chose one of the oldest stories in Western literature. Homer's Odyssey follows Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, attempting to return home after the Trojan War. The journey includes an outstanding scenes like violent seas, angry gods, deadly creatures. In other words, it was perfect for Nolan. The more you examine Nolan's career, the more the Odyssey will feel like the story he had been approaching for years.
It's the Odyssey. I wanted to take the audience on this incredible journey. And for me, I mean, we used every trick in the book, certainly, but the basis of it is to get the actors, get Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, everybody, Rob Pattinson, get them out there in the world.
Cobb wants to return to his children in Inception. Cooper crosses space and time to return to his family in Interstellar. The soldiers in Dunkirk are trapped between death and home. Nolan and cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema used approximately 2.1 million feet of film, along with a new IMAX camera and sound enclosure designed to make large-format dialogue scenes possible.
The issue over the years is we use them more and more and try to incorporate the technology more and more. But the cameras are very, very loud. But for the Odyssey, I was determined to finally try and, you know, get the whole film done that way. So we went to IMAX. We said, is there a way, as they were building new cameras at the time, I said, can you make them quieter? Can you encase them in a blimping system? And they invented this very, very high-tech system, this box that you put the camera into.
Most directors see an ocean and think about safety. Nolan sees an ocean and wonders whether Matt Damon can stand slightly farther into it. And that physical scale is exactly why the Odyssey feels like the destination Nolan had been moving toward.
Find locations, real locations, get a real boat, you know, get out there.
Get a real Cyclops.
Get a real Cyclops. As close as we could, yep.
That tension is exactly what makes Christopher Nolan fascinating. He doesn't make careful movies. He makes enormous bets and invites the audience to watch him either change cinema or disappear beneath the weight of his own ambition. You would expect an interview with Matt Damon, Robert Pattinson, and Tom Holland to be heavily controlled Hollywood promotion, but this feels like three guys who survived the same extremely expensive camping trip and have finally been allowed to compare stories.
But it's also like when you did the fight, when they were shooting the background guys who were reacting to your fight, and you'd been doing this fight for days. You've killed like 200 people by this point, and you're doing the full choreo, full out, hitting the ground. You guys really set the tone.
And every story ends with Christopher Nolan standing nearby. Nolan really looked at an already gigantic IMAX camera and said, put it inside an even bigger box, then drag it onto a cliff. Tom Holland says filming with it felt like having an SUV between the actors, and Nolan still made it move faster than an iPhone.
Still giant, it's a big 300-pound monster that we had to move around the set and everything, but it allowed us to photograph these guys in close-up and record their dialogue and get their performance as they were doing it. That meant we could do the whole film on IMAX for the first time.
That basically explains his entire career. Choose the most inconvenient method possible, make everyone suffer for shooting the film, then show them footage so beautiful they start thanking him for the trauma.
A lot of acting is confidence. It's just because you have to just put yourself out there without hesitation, and it's very easy to get in your own way. So that was actually very, very helpful for me, just knowing that I had that stamp of approval. Because I did read the script and go, I don't know how the hell we're gonna do this, I don't know how the hell we're gonna do that. But a lot of those were his problems and the technical problems for everybody else, and I was like, I'm just gonna show up and I'll be ready.
IMAX alone brought in a record-breaking $52 million during opening weekend, accounting for around 20% of the movie's entire global debut. Critics loved it. Verified audiences loved it even more. The film reached 94% from critics and 97% from verified viewers on Rotten Tomatoes. That made Nolan the franchise. He convinced millions of people to buy a ticket because his name appeared above a story older than almost every country on Earth.
That's very tough for me to answer. I mean, for me, one of the things I love about filmmaking is the stories change. The world that you're building changes, but your process and how you approach it can really stay the same in a lot of ways.
That might be the greatest success of the Odyssey. Nolan didn't only prove that ancient mythology could still sell. He proved that audiences will follow him practically anywhere. At a time when studios are terrified of taking risks, Christopher Nolan took one of the oldest stories ever told, used some of the newest filmmaking technology ever created, and reminded everyone that cinema can still feel like an event. Honestly speaking, this is the kind of success money alone cannot measure.